Hello YouTubers, my name is Frederick Lopez. You're in a new episode of The Final Cut, and today I'm going to be going over my review and thoughts of A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child stars Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger, Lisa Wilcox returns as Alice, Kelly Jo Minter plays Yvonne, Danny Hassel plays the role of Dan, Erica Anderson is Greta, and Nicholas Mele is Dennis Johnson. It is directed by Stephen Hopkins. Alice, having survived in the previous installment, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, finds the deadly dreams of Freddy Krueger starting once again. This time, she is pregnant, and Freddy Krueger striking through the sleeping mind of her unborn child, hoping to be reborn in this world. The only one who can stop Freddy is his dead mother, but can Alice free her spirit in time to save her own son? And that's pretty much the story of A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Now, Stephen Hopkins later on directed Predator 2 and then Race from last year, as well as the film Lost in Space. His direction is really good in this. However, we're going to go with the cons first and what I do not like with this film. For one, it doesn't have that much of a story, and it was mainly because, again, like the last film, they rushed it. They released it within a year again from the Dream Master. So Dream Master came out in 1988, and this was released in 1989, which is really fast for movie time again. And they went through a couple of script rewrites. Now, one of the producers came up with the idea of having Freddy become a father. And it kind of works in this, but it's not as interesting as a poster of the film. The posters were always done by the artist before the films were even made, so they kind of were trying to figure out what the film was going to be about, and you could really tell here. They did some rewrites before the director pretty much wrote it, and they had like 4 to 6 weeks on each of the pre-production, production, and post-production process, and they didn't have much in the editing. Another issue is that they had to cut a lot for the MPAA rating, so a lot of the gory scenes and nightmare scenes felt very rushed. And then my main complaint about this film is the acting. The acting is atrocious. Like, worse than a Lifetime movie. And the Nightmare on Elm Street films aren't the best films, but at least The Dream Master was somewhat entertaining. And the acting wasn't too terrible, but this one, it levels down, and it's just horrible. Robert Englund is great as Freddy, although this one he's more of a jokester. He's fully almost become a parody of himself. He's not the dark Freddy Krueger we saw in the first 3 installments. And he does good, it's just that he's not in the film enough. But the one who really carries this film is Lisa Wilcox as Alice. But even here, she doesn't do as good of a job as she did in The Dream Master, and I blame the script. Because besides the bad acting, they don't really get much to work with here. On the MPAA, they did some stuff, and they had Dan's motorcycle scene. He gets killed on a motorcycle, and they shortened that scene. Greta, their friend, she's afraid of her figure. Her parents are really kind of like rich, pretentious people. They're on their way to France. And she's at dinner with her mother and her friends, and basically Freddy like feeds her food over and over. But it happens so fast where it's not scary. And originally he has this saying, it's like, you are what you eat, and he's like feeding her intestines, and they don't show that in the regular cut. Now there is an unrated VHS cut that was released a long time ago, but they haven't released it again for Blu-ray, at least in Region 1 in North America. Pretty much Freddy's channeling his dreams and getting towards people through Alice's son Jacob. Yeah, he's played with a kid from Jurassic Park that Dr. Grant scared with a velociraptor now. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, the kid from Jurassic Park. And then he kills Freddy at the end of this by barfing on him. It's nuts. But anyway, I get to that later. So yeah, they pretty much go after the kids, and for all intents and purposes, it's not very scary. But I do commend the director and the production crew for creating imaginative nightmares. It does something to make itself different from the previous ones. And that's another thing I love about this series, is that they're also different. In addition, after Wes Craven directed the original, you really get a chance for a lot of up-and-coming filmmakers to really kind of get their feet wet with these installments. So it kind of has a student film vibe, for better or worse, but it's nice seeing a series that allowed early filmmakers to use their talents. And you don't really get to see that much, especially in horror movies now. The Dream Child was a success, but it wasn't a blockbuster like the previous films, and it was the lowest grossing. This was a film that pretty much told New Line, it's just like, you know what, I think it's time to kill Freddy, which is why they did it in the next film. And yeah, But the cinematography is great, and the dream sequences, like I said, there's like eerie hallways. The first 30 minutes, Alice has the same feeling as Kristen from the previous installment, where she just feels like something's off. Freddy's not back, but something's off, and we get to see through the eyes of Amanda Kruger and the 100 Maniacs. Not like physically see her, but like them attack her when they rape her, and you see Robert Englund in the background, so that implies that that person was Freddy's father. And it's just a really haunting scene, and really parallels to her having her baby and Amanda Kruger when she had Freddy. But they really don't get much to do. It's almost like set pieces for dreams and kills without very much of a story. But we do get to see Alice's father return. Now, in the previous film, I forgot to mention, Alice's father is like a drunk. So he's pretty much cleaned up and sobered up. So we get to see their high school graduation and their lives move forward. And there's something interesting. This is the last of the Elm Street films to have kids from Springwood, but they're kind of becoming adults of their own. And that's something that was very different from the previous ones when they were just high schoolers or just kids. This one is like they're young adults, so it's nice seeing that. There's a lot of stop motion animation. There's a scene with water. When Freddy comes back, it's great. He's like, "It's a boy!" It was fantastic. I like how he returns, and then Amanda Kruger stopping him from killing Alice the first time. It's just like, I'll put your spirit to rest or whatever. And Robert Englund's like, "We'll see, bitch." It's just like a really kind of evil Freddy still, but he's more of that jokester. But he's not in this film very much. But the stuff he is in, he's perfect. But they did change his makeup a bit. They made him look older, which is good, but something about the makeup didn't seem as precise or just as detailed as the previous 4 installments. It kind of started to look a little fake. Even though I did like that they tried to make him look older, it just looked weird. But that's a minor nitpick. Yeah, Super Freddy. I like the scene where there's this kid who gets he likes to draw and he gets put into a comic book. That was great, and then his death when Freddy becomes Super Freddy and then like slashes him and it's just paper. That stuff was great. And then the ending, Jacob's there. There's a stairwell scene, very much like Labyrinth. A lot of practical optical illusions there. The scene where Alice and Freddy are like merging faces was great. The kid barfing on him in the souls, almost like a pseudo smaller version of the way he died in Dream Master. And then it kind of has a happy ending for the most part until you see the Jump Rope Girls. And you hear Vincent Price's laugh from Thriller before it goes to the rap song. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that, it doesn't have the number 5 at the beginning, and it starts off with like a softcore porn sex scene. I mean, they don't show anything, but it's just like a giant muscular guy and Alice. And I did like the shower scene where she was drowning, because it kind of reminded me of the scene with Nancy. But speaking of Nancy, this is the first Nightmare on Elm Street where like Alice, she not only faced Freddy, but she faced him and survived twice. That's a rarity in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. She's the only character to do that. And I think that's one thing that kind of aided this film, was the fact that we got to see a character from a previous one, and it felt like a true sequel of them trying to survive, or at least going through dreams. I just wish there was more dread, and it's not scary enough. This one, Dream Master had a little bit of it, and it was a start, and Dream Warriors was the start of the humor Freddy with the one-liners, but this one's the one that really just jumped the shark, and it was like almost full parody and not scary. It was like in between. But I did love Stephen Hopkins' direction, the gothic tones. It just has great atmosphere, even though it's not scary. You could tell he did the best of what he could do in such a short time. However, that being said, I still don't think it makes the final cut, so I'm going to give A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, a 1 out of 5, a 3 out of 10, and an F. It's kind of like Freddy's Revenge, where even though there's dream stuff, Freddy's Revenge was bad because some of the lines, writing, and then the fact that it changed the rules. But this stays within the rules, but it doesn't have very much of a story. It's just everywhere. The acting is not great, and it's almost like Freddy's Revenge, but done in the other wing, where Freddy's Revenge was still serious and he was still menacing and it just wasn't good. This one, he's like a parody Freddy, and it's like the opposite of Freddy's Revenge. And I don't think it's as strong as his previous 4 installments, so because of that, I don't think it makes a final cut. But you still enjoy the film, and it does have atmosphere. You don't have to be scary to be a good horror film, but the acting, the writing, and the story is just not great, and I really wish it was, because you really get to see at some points of the film the director shine through the story. His direction with the nightmare scenes, the cinematography, and just all around set design. But yeah, those are my quick thoughts of A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. What do you think out there? Do you think it's the worst Freddy Krueger film? Do you think it's the best? What do you think about the film? What's your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film? What's your least favorite? What do you think? What's your favorite dream sequence in it? Just let me know what you like about the film. Feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. See my other reviews. You can see the previous 4 Nightmare on Elm Street film reviews on the final cut on my channel here. And yeah, thank you for watching, everyone. And yeah, that's my review of The Dream Child. And tune in for the next episode in which I'll be reviewing Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, which reminds us that there's an Elm Street everywhere.